Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Essential Thrombocythemia Alternative Treatments Discussion Group. I want to start by disclosing that no one on any of these discussions or calls are medical professionals or medical doctors, and we are in no way, shape, or form saying that you should do this. We are not advising you or recommending you to try alternative treatments. This is just our own personal stories, our journey with trying different alternative treatments, what our successes and failures have been, and what we believe to be working to help manage our conditions as well as our platelet counts. Some of us are taking the hydroxyurea or the anagrelide or interferon, and others of us, like myself, are not taking any of the recommended chemotherapy for this blood disorder and have chosen to use alternatives to keep our platelet counts under control until, of course, they exceed a certain level where our hematologist will then recommend that we must go on those things. So we are not recommending that anyone not follow their doctor's orders and just go straight alternative medicine. Those decisions are entirely up to you, and we are in no way suggesting or recommending that you do that. So again, these are just discussions about our own personal stories and our own personal situations, how we have managed our conditions or helped manage our symptoms using alternative treatments or natural and herbal medicine and or dietary changes and lifestyle changes. So again, thank you for being here. We truly appreciate you joining our discussions and watching our videos. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we look forward to seeing you on future calls, hopefully, and we hope you learn a lot from our discussions. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.
Hello. I can't hear you.
Hello. Sorry.
Oh, there you are. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Good. Everything's well by the grace of God.
Yeah, right. Same.
I just got a lot of interesting tests just to look at what ESR and how the blood flows. If you're over 20, you got clotting issues. I was at 2, so thank God for that. And homocysteine, fibrinogen, iron, a couple other interesting. I was on a cardiovascular webinar last week, and these homeopathic medical doctors are really into getting certain tests to find out where you're at with your heart,
Yeah.
And so it's just fascinating because they said that most doctors don't even, like offer these tests. You got to ask them about it,
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ladies on the last few calls that have talked about having some different heart tests done because they had some heart issues or other, reasons to get them done. But they've never said that it's something I need to go get checked out, considering that I have ET. And you'd think that would kind of be part of standard protocol for us. I don't know, but
yeah,
they haven't done anything like that.
I'm interested.
So.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm on with my hematologist on the 31st. He's a good guy, but I'm just going to say, boy, these other tests really reveal, that we're in good shape, much better than the suspicion that we're not in good shape,
Yeah. So, but yours all came back good?
What's that? Yeah, everything's good.
Well, that's awesome.
Yep.
It's good to know.
I just keep doing what I'm doing, with the turmeric and the baby aspirin and the zinc and the fish oil and vitamin C. Yeah, so, and then vitamin D3,
Love you too. Sorry, my son's just leaving.
How's Gabe doing?
He's doing good. Him and his soon-to-be stepson were just here. And they're going to go meet my sister at the disc golf course and play some disc golf and play at the park.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. So they're on their way to go have a fun day. Of course, they planned it right at 4:00. And I was like, you guys, I have a conference call at 4:00. I can't go with you.
Yeah, you wanted to go too, right?
Absolutely, I did.
Yeah.
I did, but I wasn't going to miss this, especially after yesterday, because I had the hardest time yesterday. Like I tested the Zoom on my phone and started like a mock meeting a couple days prior just to make sure that it would work from my phone. And it did, and everything seemed fine. Of course, I didn't have anybody else joining the meeting. It was just me testing it. Oh, you're driving.
Yeah.
And then anyway, we were having a second birthday party for my nephew at the Two Toots Train Whistle Cafe. And it was a little loud in there, so I knew I was going to have to step outside for the call, which I did. And I got the call started, and then I waited and waited, and I was standing outside for about 15 minutes before I figured out that nobody was joining. And then I thought, well, I better check my email to see if people are trying, because you would think that somebody would at least be on the call today, you know, because I usually get 4 or 5 at least. And anyway, so I checked the email, and I noticed that like, you know, 3 or 4 different people were trying to get on or saying that they were in the waiting room, but they weren't getting into the meeting. And so I think I was just having an issue with trying to do it through my phone. I don't know. I think it started its own meeting instead of me starting the meeting that I was supposed to be hosting. You know what I mean? Like it started.
Yeah. There's different codes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure how that got screwed up, but I tried to get in there and find it, you know, and open it up separately, and it just wouldn't let me in. And I was like, all right, well, there's not much I can do besides email everybody and tell them I'm sorry, you know. And I tried to do that from my phone too. And what happened was I only responded to Stacy. And I thought I had responded to everybody. So then later on, when I got home in the evening, I was able to log in from my laptop and send everybody an email and say, look, let's try to do this tomorrow, because I knew that it was going to be difficult to try to just, you know, do it several hours later in the day. So that wasn't going to work. So, because after the birthday party, we went and played at a park for like an hour and a half, and you know,
nice.
We had a good time. So
yeah, we've been waiting for this nice warm weather coming. You know?
I'm telling you, it has been, I mean, it always is a long winter here, but just to get a couple of days of relief feels really good, because we've had a lot of real windy weather, real cold weather. So it's nice to finally be having, you know, something a little warmer. Today it's like in the upper 50s. I think it's going to, so, well, it might have gotten to, yeah, it's 59 right now. So that's for us pretty warm.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, and we got a little sunshine too, which is cool. So.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. I'm down in Charleston, West Virginia. It's like 70 down here.
Oh, yeah. My family's all from West Virginia, my dad's side. So,
What part?
Parkersburg, but I have a cousin who's in Charleston right now.
Nice.
So, yeah. My cousin Brandon Harshbarger is down there. But yeah, the rest of them are pretty much all in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And then I've got, like, my dad and my sister live like 45 minutes over the border into Ohio. They live separately 45 minutes away. So I usually do a big loop when I'm there visiting. I go from my dad's to my grandmother's in West Virginia, and then back out to my sister's in Ohio, and all around. So,
nice.
Oh, Lacey's joining us. Hi, Lacey. Oh, hang on. You got to unmute. We can't hear you. Hang on. There you go. Can you?
Hi.
Hello. There we go. Welcome to the group.
And I'm like, how do you use Zoom?
I know it's not. I mean, I've done it before, and like, but I have mishaps with it all the time, like I did yesterday. So, but hopefully it worked out, because we get to have you on the call today. So I'm really glad you're still able to make it.
It's good to see you. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me.
Oh, of course. I'm glad to have you with us. So we'll hopefully get a few more. Usually how this works is people kind of hop on as we go. So we go from 1 or 2 of us to like 5 or 6 of us. And then by the time the call's ending, we have like a whole group. So we'll probably see a few more hop on. I know Meredith said she was going to be on today. I think Stacy was also going to try. So we got a few different people coming.
Okay. And how long do your meetings usually go?
It really just depends, you know. The last few have gone like 2 hours, and you know, I'm trying to kind of keep them maybe to like an hour, because I want to be, you know, cognizant of everybody's time. You know, we all have families and responsibilities and whatnot. So, but you know, generally speaking, we go around and we kind of introduce each other, and then, you know, we talk about like where our platelet counts are at, what kind of things we're taking, and then we sort of discuss different alternative methods for managing our disorder. So, and I usually try to at least look up 1 or 2 new things every time we have a call so that I have some new information to share with everybody. Because I've talked to a lot of different ET patients. That's kind of why I started this whole group, because the MPN network had done a story on me, and all these different people had reached out to me over the last 2 years or so, and wanting to know what I'm doing to manage my platelets naturally. And I had just met so many different people, and they all had different stories, and they were all taking different herbs. And I'm like, man, it'd be cool if we could just all compile that information so we know what's really working sort of across the board. Like, how are people managing symptoms? Because even though my platelet counts are under control, my symptoms aren't necessarily under control. So, I mean, I'm always looking for ways to improve, of course. And I don't want to be swallowing 40 pills a day. It's a little tedious after a while. It's nice to find certain things like in a liquid tincture form instead of a capsule form, or at least be able to scale it down to what I know is working and not necessarily have so much overkill. I mean, it's good to take supplements, but I just don't want to be taking too many. So try to keep it simple, So I guess one of the things I'll share with you guys, my latest platelet counts were 542. So that's the lowest I think I've been in, I think, ever since
Awesome.
diagnosis. So that's really cool. So obviously something's working with our discussions, right? So that's been really good. And then I met a new ET patient from one of the Facebook ET groups that I have, I participate in. And so I'm not on Facebook very much because I actually took the app off my phone just because it was kind of emotionally and mentally toxic for a little while there. And so I kind of decided it was smart to just shut it down for a little while. And I just focused on my art page on my Instagram, and I've kind of left it at that. It's just been art for me, like that's my social media. So,
Okay, what art do you do?
I do acrylic pour paintings and some epoxy resin work. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just started it during the pandemic, so I'm kind of a new artist and not like been doing it forever, but I've fallen in love with it. It's like my zen. It's really nice to kind of go in that little paint room and escape for a while. And when I'm pouring the paintings, it's like I'm not thinking about any of the stresses in my life. I'm not focused on anything but painting, and it's just it's a very rewarding. And I love how, because it's abstract art, every one of them comes out very different, and it's not like I can ever replicate one of them. They're all very unique, and everybody sees something different in them. So I think that's what I love about them most, is that I might see like a butterfly, and then I have like 3 other people come behind me and be like, no way, there's a dragon in there. So I just find that really rewarding. So I really enjoy doing it, and I've been having a lot of fun with the painting. So but yeah, I've stayed off social media for the most part, but every once in a while I'll get an alert from the ET group, and I'll just check it out to see. There's a new lady that I met, and her husband has ET, and they're in the UK. They might join us today, I don't know. Anyway, she was telling me that they've been taking niacin to help manage their his platelets anyway. And I started reading up on it, and I found out that actually if you're taking like 2,000 milligrams of niacin a day for a long period of time, that some people actually developed a platelet deficiency. And that deficiency actually goes away when you stop taking so much niacin, but it absolutely does seem to control platelet count. So now I know from experience that when you take a lot of niacin, that it creates something called the Niacin Flush. So basically it starts to burn all the toxins in your body out through your skin. So you'll get like red, itchy a little bit. So a lot of people, when they take higher doses of niacin, they take it at night before bed. You can take too much and get sick. It'll make you throw up. So you got to be careful not to take too much of it. But I think like maybe a moderate amount of it every day, maybe like more like 1,000 or 1,500 milligrams would probably be sufficient to see if it could really make an impact on our platelet counts.
Yeah.
Do you have the JAK2 mutation, Lacey?
No,
Okay.
I have nothing, which is really weird. They're still not even 100% if I do have ET. That's what they diagnosed me with. But they're still very curious because I've had autoimmune disease too.
Right.
And inflammation can cause your platelets to go up.
Well, yeah, and I know for a fact inflammation is directly related to when my platelets are elevated, because when I get these terrible migraines, and the only thing, like I've taken Furoset and all these prescription drugs for migraines, I've tried so many different things, and the only thing that actually takes a dent in it and really, you know, helps to bring it down a notch, it never takes it completely away, but it at least helps, is ibuprofen. And obviously ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory, so I know that it's my inflammation response happening, but yeah,
So they checked me for all the mutations. They say I don't have any. So basically, they're just basing their diagnoses off of actually looking at my platelets in a microscope. And because, well, number one, I had really high platelets when I went in. I was at 1,600,000.
Oh yeah, that's real high.
Yeah. And then on my 21st birthday, got diagnosed with it. Terrible.
That sounds
But
fun.
I know. I'm like, I should be having a drink. I'm like, why am I in the hospital?
Right. Well, hey, drinks can thin your blood, so that might have been a good night.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't need this, you know, baby aspirin. I'll be fine. So yeah, they're basing my diagnoses off of that alone, and then also looking at my platelets in the microscope, and they were saying that they're clumpy.
Right.
The fact that they're clumping together is what they're basing that off of, and they
So
don't have any other evidence to suggest it's anything else. So,
and your platelets have continued to be high since then?
well, so this is the crazy thing is I had that for about 4 years, and my platelets, even so I was taking Hydrea, I was taking about 1,000 milligrams a day. They would fluctuate. Sometimes they'd go higher, whatever. But I was pretty much steadily at like an 800,000, 900,000 range, even on taking that much Hydrea.
Wow.
And then fast forward a couple of years after my diagnosis, this was in 2019, I got diagnosed with autoimmune hemolytic anemia, which is an autoimmune disease of the blood. Very strange.
Huh.
So my doctor was kind of scratching her head going, how could you have another disease that's of the blood? It's, according to them, not related by any means, just random
coincidence that you just happen to have two odd things going on in your blood. That is, I wonder, does Hydrea cause anything like that in the side effects? Do you know?
According to them, no.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but again, this is a rare disease, so who really knows? But what ended up happening was, with that autoimmune disease, your white blood cells start attacking your red blood cells. So I got extremely anemic. They put me on prednisone, which is a steroid.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, when I was on the steroid, my platelets dropped.
Somebody revving an engine by you over there. You got a motorcycle?
No, there's 5, 6, 7 of them right beside me here.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I'll put it on mute for a little bit.
You're okay.
Yeah, so it dropped to like 100,000, which was insane. I had never, ever been at that amount. So I asked my doctor, I said, could prednisone have anything to do with my platelets dropping so significantly?
Right.
And she said, well, not unless your platelets were being caused by inflammation. So that's really the mystery. They still
That sounds like they were being caused by inflammation. So, but what is causing the inflammation is the question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really weird. And you know what's funny is, like, I was doing some research and we were talking on the last call, and one of the things I had discovered was that, hang on, I wrote down the term. Where did I put it? Yeah, here we go. Hydrea is a cytoreduction drug, meaning it kills the malignancy. Well, a malignancy is a mutation. And if you don't have the JAK2 mutation, you just have these high platelets, I wonder why they would have put you on Hydrea. You know what I'm saying? Because the anagrelide is a platelet reduction drug. That one is just reducing the platelets, where the Hydrea is more of a cytoreduction drug. So that's why I'm like kind of confused as to why they even put you on Hydrea. And obviously it didn't have any effect on your platelet counts, right? So
I mean, it did initially. I mean, I was at 1,600,000, so they did bring it down to about 800, 900,000. So it definitely did something, but as far as bringing them down further than that, it didn't.
Were you in a lot of pain when you went in and found that they were 1.6 million?
No, my
No.
2 symptoms were fatigue. I was so tired.
Yeah.
And irritability. Bless my family because they put up with a lot. I was always just so mad. I don't know why, but that was
Well, because you knew something was wrong, like you could feel it, you know.
didn't feel like myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happens. When you're in pain, it's hard to be nice. So, I mean, I'm always a nice person, but when I'm in pain, it's really hard to be nice. So I know.
And
Wow.
then too, I feel like our bodies can tell us when something's wrong.
Well, yeah. And when we have symptoms, I think those are signals for us to be paying attention. Like, hey, something's going on over here. You need to, you need to change something you're doing. I mean, the one thing that Western medicine doesn't do is really address like our levels of stress and our diet and all these things that absolutely play a role in our health at the end of the day. So, I can tell when I'm getting like my platelets are getting high because I get all splotchy red and I get all like I can feel pressure, and I know like, uh-oh, I can feel headaches coming on, or I can feel that I need to go like drink more water and take some aspirin or something, and I don't really like taking the aspirin every day because I know that long-term use of, even aspirin can cause problems later in life. And I don't want to have any issues. So I'll take it like 5 days a week instead of the full 7 days a week. I don't.
Jessica, I wanted to ask you a question about that. I was thinking the same thing. That stays in the body, supposedly, the efficacy of aspirin. I was reading some 10 days or something. It might be okay to do that every other day or something, right?
Yeah, really, because if it's staying in the body, then yeah, maybe it would. But I will tell you that I notice on the days that I have those migraines are almost always the days I haven't taken an aspirin.
Interesting, yeah.
And I will take one, but it's not like it takes the headache away.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I first got diagnosed, I was having headaches every single day, and it was starting off as just like tension. And as the day would progress, the headache would get worse and worse and worse. And then I would end up at night always having like this migraine at night. And when they diagnosed me with the blood disorder, that they immediately put me on a daily baby aspirin. When I started that baby aspirin, those daily headaches completely disappeared. I only have the occasional really bad migraine now. So, and it's not really occasional. I shouldn't say that because it's like 4 or 5 days a month, sometimes more. But for me, that's a reduction because, I was having them every single day. So it's an improvement. But after reading that stuff about the niacin, I definitely think I'm going to add some niacin. I mean, I already take like the B12 because that was the first thing. It's funny. The only thing my original hematologist that diagnosed me with this, he wanted to put me on Hydrea. And I was like, let me have some time to think about this. Like, this is a big deal, I was, I think 33 or 35, something like that when I was diagnosed. I'm 44 now. So I was still pretty young and I was like, I don't want to be on chemo the rest of my life. Like, I'm not ready for that, So I was just like, give me some time. Let me try to figure this out. And even though my platelets were in the 900s, he still let me not do Hydrea for a while. And then, when I would tell him that I was still having the headaches, then he was like, well, if your headaches continue, we're going to have to put you on Hydrea if your headaches continue. But the one thing he did tell me was to start with the B12. And he's like, make sure you're taking B12 because I guess having low B12 can cause you to have high platelets. And obviously it sounds like the same thing with the niacin, like having too much can cause you to have low platelets. So obviously vitamin B somehow plays a role in that, but yeah, so I'm going to start adding the niacin instead of just the B12. And I had actually stopped taking my multivitamin because my OB-GYN has been taking my blood every like 2 to 4 weeks because she's trying to figure out like my hormonal migraines. And she had said that my vitamin D was too high and that I think my iron was a little high. And so she's like, don't keep taking that multivitamin. Make sure you just like only do it, once a week or whatever. Well, it's hard for me to remember to do something once a week. So I've completely forgotten about my multivitamin. Take all my other herbs, but I just keep forgetting the multivitamin. So I probably need to get back on that and just make sure it has significant niacin because that seems like it can definitely have some good effects. So, but yeah, other than that, I really, I don't know if you've ever seen my my website. I have like a little graph of my platelets on there. And I know that when I first started working in a dispensary and had access to medical cannabis, I started with high THC because I had heard about the Rick Simpson story and I thought, oh, I need high THC to kill cancer. So I started with that. And my platelets were 900s for, maybe 2-3 years. And then I started on the high THC and they dropped down to like the 800s, but it wasn't like a significant drop. It was like less than 100 points. And it stayed like that for like a year. But I thought, well, I got to stick with it. And I thought that the reason I wasn't seeing drastic results is because I wasn't following the Rick Simpson protocol and doubling my dose every 4 days and trying to build my tolerance up higher. I was just sticking to what I knew I could handle because I was the general manager of a dispensary. So I had to be on my toes. I couldn't be all, feeling the effects of the high. trying to run a dispensary. It doesn't really work out like that. You have state inspectors showing up, you've got state police inspectors showing up, like you got to be on your toes. So I didn't continue to up my dose. So I thought maybe that's why it wasn't really working. Well, then one day, one of the patients came in who had all these little brain tumors in her head, and she looked great. And I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm in remission. I'm doing great. All my cancer's gone. And I was like, well, what did you do? I'm like, did you do their chemo and stuff? And she's like, no, I never did chemo. She's like, I only did the cannabis oil. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And then she put her order in and she ordered the high CBD Rick Simpson oil and not the high THC. And I was like, have you been doing this the whole time, or is this like your follow-up protocol? And she's like, no, I've been doing this the whole time. She's like, I didn't want to be too high, so I took the high CBD and figured it would probably still work. And she's like, and I've had miraculous results. And then I was like, wait, oh, so CBD kills cancer cells too? Like, I didn't know that. I thought it was all you had to have THC to do it, So I changed my dose to like a 50-50 and my platelets came immediately down into like the upper 700s. And I was like, oh, okay, that's working. And then I changed it again to have even higher CBD and a little bit lower THC. Now I always still have THC in there because I know that you need THC to help the CBD bind to the receptors. Otherwise, you can take super high dose CBD medicine, but if there's no THC in it, your body's only going to absorb a very small percentage of it. So it's important to have a little bit of THC in there if you want to absorb it. So I always keep some in there just for that sake. But I also know that I did have a little drop in my platelet count and it never went up from there, So I feel like it still did play a role. But obviously it wasn't what I needed alone. I needed something with a broader spectrum. And so when I did that, I did see a significant drop. And then the second time that I saw my platelets drop again, down into the 600s, was when I learned that turmeric or curcumin can kill the JAK2 mutation. And so once I figured that out, I started upping my dose because I had been taking like 1 capsule a day. So I think it was like 500 milligrams. I'm now taking 4,000 milligrams a day.
Oh, turmeric?
Yeah. And, turmeric's a natural anti-inflammatory too. So it doesn't just kill the JAK2 mutation. It also helps with with inflammatory response,
Funny you say that too, because there was a period of time when I was taking high doses of turmeric as well, and that was bringing down my platelets.
Yes.
Not a lot, but definitely significantly enough for me to realize it and say, hey, maybe it's the turmeric that I'm taking.
Yeah, because I dropped from like upper mid 700s down into the 600s and now 542. So, and the 2 counts before that were 586 and 576. So, I'm now what I would consider in the 500s, which is awesome because I was in the 900s for so long. And then, the 800s for a long time. And, like it's been this very slow decline, but it's like, as I discover more things that can help manage the platelets, I am seeing them, drop a little. So I'm happy with that. As long as they're not raising up over 800, they won't make me go on the Hydrea. And
so, really?
Yeah, they said if they go over 800, then they're going to put me on the Hydrea.
So you're not taking anything?
Oh, no. I'm just doing natural. Mm-hmm. And the whole time, this whole like 10, 11 years I've been diagnosed, I've never taken the Hydrea. Wow. Yeah, I've never done it. So,
what scares me is that I was diagnosed like pretty young, I would say 21.
That's very young.
25 now, about to be 26. And I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable taking this chemo pill every day for the
No.
rest of my life. I mean,
No, because what are the long-term effects? You know, when I first got diagnosed, they told me that the reason they didn't want to put me on it was because I was so young, and that they didn't know the long-term effects because the bulk of the patients that they had that actually have ET are all elderly. You know, and they said most of them are over, statistically, like the bulk of them are all over age 65. And because of that, they didn't know the long-term effects of hydrea because they're only using it on older people. And so now I asked my hematologist about it, and she's like, oh, we're fine. We know the long-term effects. It's no big deal. So, you know, maybe now that it's been 10 years, they have some new research, but I don't really feel all that comfortable with it personally. I've just seen so many people go on different drugs and end up with like all these terrible side effects from the drugs, and then they're on more drugs. And you know, like when I was working in the dispensary, I met so many people that came in that were on 10, 15, 20 different meds, and they were so looped out of their mind they could hardly hold a conversation. They generally had somebody else driving for them, you know, and speaking for them, because they were just so out of it, and they were constantly miserable. And when they started just cannabis, I mean, this is just one plant, you know, we got so many different ones, but just cannabis alone was taking these people off of these like massive amounts of medication and getting them down to just one or two that they needed, you know. And almost all of them, the first thing to go was blood pressure medication, and then sleep medication, you know, those things would all disappear. And I saw that consistently with multiple patients, where they were getting a quality of life back that they hadn't had before. They were getting sleep like they'd never had before, you know. And I just think about how my stepmom was an herbal doctor, and I, you know, was very inspired by her as a young girl, watching her do like muscle testing and helping people herbally. And I always just thought that was so cool that we could heal ourselves with just plants, you know. And then I, you know, as an adult now that I'm like seeing sort of how the pharmaceutical industry works, and like, in my opinion, who runs most of the government, you know, or like these big pharmaceutical corporations, you know, like a lot of this, there's just, it's a huge profit center. Like cancer is a big business, you know, I mean, and there's a lot of money to be made off of the cure, you know, but I've seen so many people get sicker from the cure, and it's just, you know, it's sad. And then you think about it, and it's like, for thousands of years, humanity evolved this far. We've only had pharmaceuticals for like the last maybe 100 years. So, and we act like it's a need. We're like so conditioned for this like quick fix. We're in a society of like, you know, we want just a pill. Just give me a pill, it'll fix it. Just give me a pill. And it's not that easy, you know, like when it really comes to your health. I mean, if you look at like some of the ancient practitioners, and, you know, like the, you know, the, they call them the shaman and stuff like that, you know, they look at deeper, they look at what's going on with you spiritually, emotionally, all those things. And that's all part of the healing process. And they are using plant-based medicine. And so if we've evolved this far using those methods, they obviously worked. They weren't, you know, it wasn't broke. So like, you know, so it's just my personal philosophy. Like if I can find a way to manage things in my life naturally, I will always try that first. And then if I can't get it under control naturally, then fine, I'll take the, you know, I'll take the hydrea, or I'll take whatever the medication is they want me on. But I always want to try to do things naturally first, you know, like my grandmother had high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and the doctors wanted to put her on medication, and she was like, absolutely not, I will get this under control, give me 6 weeks and I will, you know. And she did. She ate oatmeal every morning, she took red yeast rice, and she got it all down, and now she never has to be on medication. And she is, by the way, 86 years old. My grandfather, her husband, just turned 89. They both are totally my inspiration for what I'm doing naturally, because he's survived cancer 3 times now. Without doing radiation and chemotherapy, just using herbs and dietary changes. So I've seen him live this long and be as healthy as he is. And like, they both had their COVID shots. They went for both of them. And like, I really don't want to do that. I like don't want anything in my body that's not necessary. And I was so scared when they got their COVID shots, because I'm like, oh my God, they're in their 80s. What happens if they have an adverse effect or something? And, you know, they both got through it like champs. Like they didn't even have any soreness in their arm or nothing, because they take herbs and vitamins every day. So they're both healthy as can be. So, you know, it's inspiring. But I think that's partially what gives me the confidence to do it this way. You know, if I was more trusting in the Western medical system, I probably would have been on chemo a long time ago. But because I have these people in my life that inspire me that things can be done naturally, I've just decided that's the way I want to go. And I'm very, very lucky, knock on wood, that I've made it as many years as I have not going on Hydrea and being able to manage it naturally. So.
Well, it's incredible that you dropped that much just using natural medicine.
Right. And I mean, and it's like not like I've had spikes where it's gone way back up. I mean, I've certainly had times where it's gone like, oh, it spiked up to 6 or 7, like within the last few years. But like, it seems like consistently because only the last year or two, I've been having my blood drawn super frequent because of this OB-GYN who wants to like test my hormones. And because of that, I've been able to see my platelets more frequently. And I have been consistently in the 5s and 6s now. It was 6s, and then now it's recently dropped down into the 5s. So, and the only thing I've really changed is I started taking that spleen desiccated, which is an herb by standard process that's supposed to help your spleen be well nourished enough to help flush out some of the platelets from your system. And so it's called spleen desiccated. Hang on a second here. Where's the chat? How do I do it? There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Spleen desiccated. I think that's how you spell it. Oh, I put spleed.
That's okay.
There we go. Okay. And it is by standard process herbs. Here we go. Now you can only buy that through like a natural practitioner or a chiropractor. Standard process doesn't just sell to the general public. So you have to go to your chiropractor to get it. Or if you have like a naturopathic doctor in your area, you can probably find it. If you look online, you can probably find through their website what practitioners near you carry it. So
it does what? It flushes out.
It helps to nourish your spleen so that it can flush the platelets out more effectively. I also take a tincture with milk thistle in it to help flush out the liver and keep the liver healthy, because the same thing, the liver is filtering the blood. It's helping flush out all those extra platelets. So between the spleen desiccated and the, what is it called? It's called, hang on, I'm going to screen share. Let's do that. Okay. Did it work? Hang on. Oh, there we go. Share. Okay. So, it is, let's see here, Go Nutrients. And I started taking as much as I can liquid because I'm so tired of swallowing capsules. I'm like, twice a day, I'm like, have this massive handful of stuff. And I've gotten to the point where I have to split them in two because I'm gagging if I'm trying to do all of them. So if I can do liquid, it's so much better. It is, where is it? I think it's called Liver's Edge.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find it here. Where'd it go? There it is, Liver's Edge. Okay. So this is the product that I take that has the milk thistle in it. Okay. And see, it actually has a couple really good things. It not only has the milk thistle, but it has dandelion root, which is really good for detoxifying your body. Chicory root, turmeric root, artichoke leaf. Artichoke leaf is a natural antibacterial antibiotic. Geranium root, I don't know what that does, and wormwood leaf. So these are all things that help to flush your body out, cleanse, as well as the turmeric. It's, natural anti-inflammatory and whatnot. But I take that because it's just like a quick little dropper under the tongue. It doesn't taste bad at all. And it's only like $26. And I go through one every like 2 months. It takes me a little while to go through them. So, but those are nice because it's just a way to help like flush out your liver and your spleen. Same thing with the spleen desiccated. I think it just helps your body to flush out some of the excess because, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of like really bad muscle soreness and stiffness. And I think that also contributes to the headaches. So, but yeah, how do I go back? I'm so bad at this.
I can't help you. Like, how do you I think you go to the bottom.
Oh, wait, here we go. All right, let's go back to, no, wait. Now this is asking me to share again. I want to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Sorry, I'm just so bad at this. Hang on.
either.
Oh, wait, there it is. Stop share. Okay. Found it. Sorry. So bad. I'm learning as we go. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in your case, it's going to be a matter of trying to figure out what's causing this inflammation. Because obviously you're having a major inflammatory response for something, you know.
Yeah,
So,
and the important thing, like I feel like too to mention is that, you know, when I was on that the hydri not hydria, I'm sorry, the
no,
prednisone,
the prednisone, yeah, the steroid.
like I was saying, my platelets were usually 800, 900 like yours. And then after this whole period of time, you know, I'm in remission from the autoimmune disease. I don't have it anymore. So I don't take,
Oh, that's cool. So it went away.
yes, it went away. I don't take prednisone, anything like that anymore. But since then, now my platelets have been pretty much in the 500 range like you. So
Okay.
it's almost like for whatever reason, that offset my platelets, and now they're generally in the 500s, not really going past that, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I was consistently for like 4 years at 800, 900. You know?
Yeah, I know. And that's how I was when I was first diagnosed too. I was like way up in the 8, you know, maybe upper 7s at the best, you know, but I mean, that was several years of my life. And then all of a sudden I just started, you know, also, you know, I have to say too is when I left the dispensary, my stress levels went way down. It took me like a year to decompress from that job because it was just, it was very stressful for me because I felt so connected with it. Like this was my purpose. I had finally found my, you know, my place in the world was like at this dispensary helping people and just seeing people's success stories when they would come through and tell me like, I've slept better than I have in years, or like my husband and I are finally talking because I'm not a raging bitch anymore. I'm calm, you know, because I mean, cannabis calms you down. Like, you know, so when I would meet these people that were just having such awesome success stories, it just made every day worth living, you know, and it was like, I just felt so inspired being there and being a part of helping and like, you know, and I just really enjoyed consulting with patients and helping make a difference in whatever way I could, you know. And when the corporate side of things got really stressful and like all the little high schooly, you know, talk behind people's backs and let's tell on the manager so we can try to take her job and, you know, all that kind of stupid crap that goes down, it got really stressful. And so, you know, like, I'm sure that that contributed because I know that when I've been under higher levels of stress that my platelets have been higher, and when I've been a little calmer, you know, they seem to go down. I had kidney stones, and when I was in pain, they went up over 1 million. It's the only time I've had them over 1 million was when I was passing a kidney stone. But other than that, I've never had them spike up like that again. You know, I've been able to keep them relatively under control. So I'm pretty sure that when I'm having those migraines that they're very elevated. I'm sure if you tested my blood while I was having one, it probably would be up in the 700 or 800 range. I don't doubt that.
Well, and that's the thing with the platelets too, is that they go up and down so often, you know? And so that can also be hard for us too, because we're not getting tested every day.
Right.
We're not getting our blood taken every day.
Well, right. It's like sometimes you go in and you get like this odd test that's like way high and you're like, oh my God. Now you're worried for weeks when it was only high for that moment that you were getting the blood work, you know? And the same thing when they come down, it's like, well, I always like kind of second guess myself because if I still have a headache or I still have symptoms, I'm like, well, what if it's spiking back up? Like, you know, so then I'm always sort of worried about that too. But I think I can kind of feel it when I'm, you know, it's like I said, I feel like this weird kind of pressure all over. I feel like the headache coming on, you know, like I can feel it in my body when I think they're elevated. And, you know, there's times that I feel like I'm just totally fine, you know, but then all of a sudden I'll get like a weird dizzy spell out of nowhere or something, you know. So yeah, I don't know, it is scary because it does constantly fluctuate. But I feel like with all disease and all conditions, like there's generally got to be a root cause of it. There's got to be something. And, you know, all they can tell us is, oh, well, you may have been exposed to a chemical or had a rogue virus. That was how you probably got ET. I mean, sure, we've probably all been exposed to chemicals and whatnot. You know, I mean, I was born on a military base where they had a toxic water spill and they covered it up for 20 years. And I learned to swim at 6 months old in their water.
I have a lot more to talk to you about. I'm like, oh, I'm glad it's only us now because that was my next question to you was, have you, in your knowledge, been exposed to petroleum byproducts?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, because petroleum byproducts, that's in Carmex and chapstick. And I mean, there's so many of our products that we use every day that have petroleum in them. So yeah, I mean, for sure.
Specifically, I mean, if you lived on, you said a military base?
I was born at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And then shortly after, when I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, my grandparents moved, my mom's side, my mom's mom and dad moved from West Virginia to North Carolina, just off base there at Camp Lejeune. So I was born there. We moved to Memphis. My brother was born. We moved back to North Carolina off base for a little while. And then we moved up here to Illinois to the Great Lakes Naval Base. And then my parents divorced when I was 4 years old. So my dad went back to West Virginia and my mom stayed here and remarried. And so I would spend my school years here. And then my summers, I would go spend half my summer with my dad in West Virginia, and the other half I would go with my grandmother in North Carolina. And we went on base for everything. Like we would go do all of our grocery shopping at the commissary. We would do all of the doctor's appointments for her and my grandfather there. We would go to the beach all the time. And there was like a retiree beach that we went to where, you know, they had like spigots where you could rinse off the sand and you could drink and you could like whatever, and we drank out of that water and we rinsed off in those spigots just every single time we went to the beach, which was like all summer, you know, every summer of my life. So yeah, I mean, I was exposed to what are the chemicals called? It was something with a B. It was like not boron, but it was benzene. That's the one. Yep. So for sure I know I was exposed to benzene.
Okay, because so I live in Torrance. And see, I don't want to say too much because I've been doing so much research on this. Supposedly, my city that I live in had mass contamination of benzene. And same thing, I kid you not, they're trying to cover it up.
Yeah, 20 years went by before it finally got exposed that was in the water the whole time. For all the people that lived on base were drinking from it, you know, all of it, bathing in it.
I have an entire binder. Like, this is how
Look at you.
Well, I went to school for communication. So like they trained me to be like a debate and like rhetoric, you know, Nazi, because I'm just
awesome. I love it.
But I have found, Jess, you'll probably find this so interesting. I have found so much evidence suggesting that exposure to benzene, chronic exposure. So this could be in low amounts, but for someone like you and probably me too, because we've had it in Torrance, the chronic exposure of benzene causes malignancies of the blood, specifically fibrosis in the bone marrow.
Yeah.
And that can be directly related to ET, which is crazy. And then the fact that they try to cover this stuff up is like beyond me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we literally, right before COVID, my city had a council meeting where it was like it wasn't a city council meeting, but they had a panel. And so they had people, they had our mayor there. They had people from the South Coast Air Quality and Management District who are, you know, supposed to represent the community. But as a lot of government agencies do, they don't really care.
No.
So
they're protecting their corporate interests. That's
yeah.
what they do.
So I got up to speak along with a lot of angry residents about this whole benzene situation. And they literally told us, oh, these monitors that are picking up high levels of benzene, they're broken. They're not.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're broken. That's why we're all having blood issues, right?
When, mind you, you know, this has been going on, this whole benzene situation for years. And there's so much evidence. Like,
Well, the Camp Lejeune, there's actually a lawsuit. So there is a lawsuit. I'm trying to remember the name. It's actually one of the guy's daughters who died of leukemia. He started it was one of the fathers actually started this whole lawsuit against the military base for them covering it up for 20 years.
So crazy.
And so, it's funny because people tell me all the time, like, you should contact Erin Brockovich. You should talk to Erin Brockovich. And, you know, it's kind of funny because I've always sort of wanted to call and like, just see if I could get, I mean, she's pretty high level lady. I don't know if I can even get her, but,
People would joke with me too, because I'd be like, look at my binder.
Yeah. Because the more I talk about Camp Lejeune and how I was exposed to benzene and all that, everybody's, oh, you should contact Erin Brockovich. She could help. And I'm like, I don't know. What could she do at this point? Like, how do you get rid of the blood disorder once you've been exposed to benzene? You know, that's what I want to know. So like,
What was
but
the camp called?
what?
What was the camp called? Camp.
Oh, Camp Lejeune. Lejeune, I think. How does Camp Lejeune? Hang on, I'm gonna look it up. 1 second. I can never spell it right. Hang on. Oh wait, you cannot minimize when you're recording. Okay, we won't do that then. We'll have to go back to screen sharing.
And I've been epidemiologist about this too, through my doctor, which is amazing. But this would be like great information to share that you
Yeah.
have been
Well,
and were exposed to benzene. I mean,
it's Lejeune. Did I say it right?
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did. Okay. Wow. I'm surprised I guessed that right. But yeah, it's on the coast of North Carolina. And so yeah, but they had a 20-year cover up. And my dad sent me paperwork because so basically what happened was in the settlement, they agreed to pay medical expenses for all the service members that were affected by it, not necessarily their children. And the people that were affected most were the babies in the wombs of the mothers that were exposed. Those were the ones that were coming out with all these kids with leukemia and blood disorders. And also they were having on the list for the benzene exposure for Camp Lejeune, I think there's liver cancer and pancreatic cancer, ovarian and breast cancer, all those also have been part of benzene exposure.
It's
So
crazy to me. And I know I'm not going to be able to find it now, but you're right in saying that, and because I found numerous scholarly articles where they've done research and had, test groups and whatever. But I remember reading in one of them, and I'll find it to you and email it to you because I have it here somewhere.
Awesome. Thank you.
Said that the children are the ones, because they're growing, they're more susceptible to developing these types of diseases when being exposed to benzene as opposed to an adult.
Right. And that's why they say the bulk of the people that were affected were in the womb when they were exposed. Right. So yeah, it was a lot of the babies that were exposed, a lot of the children. So, I was born there. I took a swimming class at 6 months old in the pools at Camp Lejeune. And then, like I said, every summer. And my grandmother took me for a year during my parents' divorce too. So, I lived with her for that period of time. And then every summer we were there. And that was when you use the water the most is in the summer because, I'm just a water baby. When I was a kid, not only did I learn to swim young, but you put me in the tub and I would just stay in there till it was ice cold. They had to drag me out of the tub because I love water and I still love water, but when I was a kid, if we weren't at the beach, we were at the public pool on Camp Lejeune. Or we were at my grandma's best friend, Jeannie, lived in what's called Tarawa Terrace, which is one of the neighborhoods at Camp Lejeune that was also exposed and had, this toxic crap in the water. But they would set up the sprinkler for me in Jeannie's yard because she didn't have a pool. And so I would play in the slip and slide, or I would play in the sprinkler. So it was every moment that I was there, I was in the hose, or I was on the beach rinsing off in the hose, or I was just always in the water. And so I'm pretty sure that's how it ended up happening because none of my siblings ended up with it. And I was the one, because I was the firstborn granddaughter, I hate to say, my grandma always said I was her favorite. That's really not nice for a grandma to pick a favorite. But I'm a
favorite too, so it's okay.
Yeah, I was a favorite. So I got to stay and my siblings would go back home to Illinois and I would stay with my grandmother. So, I was with her more than anybody else, and I was at Camp Lejeune more than anybody else. So,
yeah. So I wanted to ask you, have you spoken to anyone else there, or do you know the rate of cancer or specifically blood malignancies of people that came out of that area?
No, I don't know the statistics on that. It would be really interesting to find it out. But I do have one of our other ET members of our group here, Meredith. She currently lives in North Carolina. And I believe she said she was also born at Camp Lejeune. So, yeah. So I have finally met one other person that was born at Camp Lejeune with the same blood disorder.
And now I'm telling you that Torrance, where I live, had benzene contamination. So it's just a weird.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Torrance?
My whole life, since I was 3.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
So So, what was I gonna say? I was gonna ask you something. I was gonna say, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of people that came out of there with issues because there was,
yeah, I mean, with that water being toxic, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's a good percentage of people.
Settlement is what I was looking for.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody actually got a real settlement. I think that when they finally settled the case for this, it was just like, oh, well, they'll cover medical expenses related to you having it. You know, there's no.
That wasn't even for you guys. It was only for the workers.
Right, the servicemen. Yeah. The servicemen that served on base. And so my dad did fill a thing out saying how we lived on base for this period of time, we lived off base for this period of time, but he explained it all and sent it in for him. And I think they did approve him to have medical coverage. So because they did that, he now was actually able to retire a little bit earlier because now he knows he's got his medical taken care of and he only has to pay for his wife. So I remember that he did get that part taken care of, but I also filled out paperwork and sent it in and I never got any response from sending my paperwork in. So, but when you read about it, it does say like that they'll do it on, I think if you have like a severe enough case, they might cover you. But you know, the problem for me is like, even if they did offer to pay my medical expenses, the only way that would benefit me is if I really get to the point where I need like a, major treatment, or I need a bone marrow transplant or something like that, because I choose to do things naturally over Western medicine. So I'm not really using the medical system that much. I go for my, every 6 weeks or whatever. No, actually, I think I'm at 3 months now. Every 3 months I go to my hematologist and she runs my blood work, and that's about it. Like, I don't really.
And doesn't that make
much beyond that?
It's like, oh, okay, so we'll just pay for your medical bills. Well, you should be paying for my, like, what is the, I'm not a lawyer.
Pain and suffering.
Pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Now I have this disease for the rest of my life. I may be fine now, but when I start getting older, what's going to happen?
Right. Well, and I mean, one of the things, it could just be age, but like I'm noticing that, I only have so much stamina for things. Like I try to clean my bathroom and I can get through like a part of it. I can get like just the tub and shower done, and then I'm exhausted and I got to wait another day to go back and do the floor and the toilet and the sink because I just don't have the energy to complete it. Like there's no way I'm getting both my bathrooms done in one day. It's going to take me 4 days to do 2 bathrooms, So like I think I'm going to just pay a cleaning lady at some point to just come do it for me because I just run out of steam so quick. And I don't like that. It's like I've always been a pretty active person most of my life. I enjoy getting out and riding my bike and hiking and playing disc golf and, riding my scooter. And like, I just like being out and being active. And so it's just hard, like I went for my nephew's birthday party yesterday and we went to the park and played for like an hour or two afterwards. And I was just like so wiped out after that. I'm like, cause I was pushing him on the merry-go-round as fast as I could go in circles, and we were just having a blast. But my God, it just takes its toll on me. And then sometimes like my sister came over like a week ago and we did like, I think it was like a 30-minute yoga workout. It wasn't anything that I've not done before. And I was just so flippin' sore for like 3 days. I just could barely move. Everything was aching. And I'm like, I feel like I'm freaking 80. Like, this sucks. I don't want to feel like this. So I don't know.
Getting older, or do you feel like that happened when you got diagnosed?
I think it's a little bit of both because obviously if I got up and did cardio every day, I'd probably be in a lot better shape than I am right now. But, I'm not a cardio girl. I don't like running. I just like, like low impact's cool, but I don't know. I've never been, like a runner or somebody who's like, I was a gymnast in high school. And like I said, I like riding my bike and being active, but it's not like I follow a regimen, I'm really bad at following routines. I like variety in my life, so I'm always changing things up like all the time. So it's really hard to stick to a diet or stick to an exercise plan because I get bored fast. I want to change things up. I want to do something different all the time. So, but yeah, I would probably be in better shape if I got more regular exercise than the way I live right now. It's like I get, like a big burst of exercise for a day or two, and then I'm like just hanging out around the house or painting or doing whatever for like a week or two before I get another burst of like, getting out and getting exercise. So That's probably part of it, is years of that. But I think also the blood disorder contributes, because one of the main side effects is fatigue, and the numbness and tingling in the hands and feet. I don't really get that often, but I mean, I get muscle cramps really bad, like in my upper back and neck, and I get like tension headaches really bad. And I think what happens is when my muscles get so cramped up that they're like pinching my nerves, then sometimes, yeah, I'll get like numbness in like this bottom half of my hand for some reason. Like my ring finger and pinky finger will just go numb, but it doesn't usually last very long. It's like if I just start moving things around and circulating and rubbing my shoulder, like it'll come back. So, and like if I'm sitting too long, my legs will go a little numb. But I think that happens to everybody. It's not like I have a major issue with it where it's like bothering me. So I've been lucky that way. It's just the headaches that are killing me. So, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the disease, because I mean, I feel like I'm young, but I'm like you, I get tired so easily. Like,
yeah, and you're in your 20s. You shouldn't be getting tired easily. Yeah.
My friends, and they're all drinking, and I'm like a granny. I can't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I drink a little bit, but they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I can't. I'm not. My body's not on your body's level. So
Right. And that's a hard thing for me too, because, I mean, my social life does unfortunately, revolve a lot around going to places where people get to drink. My family all likes to drink. I mean, I'm Irish, German, and American Indian. So like I should be able to hold my alcohol. I literally did like one shot of Jameson with my brother and his boyfriend the other night for St. Patrick's Day, and I felt like shit the next day. And I didn't even get a buzz. It was like, was that worth it? I mean, at least if I got a buzz, it'd be worth it. But damn it, I didn't even get anything. I had to pay the price for it. I'm like, this sucks. So, I mean, I've like a couple of times been able to have like a top shelf margarita or something, and I'm okay, as long as it's like top shelf alcohol. But I can't do more than like one, maybe two if I really want to push it, but then I'm gonna pay for it the next day. And I mean, I get it, everybody gets hangovers, and as you get older the hangovers get worse, but I feel like it's like 10 times what most people go through, because like it completely debilitates me if I just like work way too long the day before. Like there's times where I'll like work till 2 or 3 in the morning and just really push myself to get through a project or get something done. Oh my God, the next day, almost guaranteed, I'm gonna have a migraine. I'm gonna feel like complete crap because I pushed myself too hard the day before. And same thing, like if I drink or I smoke too much weed or something, like like the next day can be brutal if I just overdo it the littlest bit. And it's like, I feel like such a wuss. It sucks. I can't hang with everybody, so I can go and like be the DD, yay, but it's like, I feel like the pregnant chick, like I can't, I can't participate with everybody. It sucks, but I mean, it's just my body. It just doesn't, my body doesn't seem to like alcohol very much. So
I neither. I wonder, we should ask everyone else, how they feel.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the ladies that has ET, and she also is like you, where she doesn't have any mutations, she just has ET. She said that drinking 2 glasses of red wine every day has taken her symptoms completely away almost. She's like, she would say like 95% reduction in symptoms just from drinking 2 glasses of wine every day. So now the red wine has resveratrol in it, which is a really good antioxidant for anti-cancer. I was actually taking it as a supplement for a while. Plus it's alcohol, which thins the blood a little bit. So I could see where it would probably be beneficial. Now, if I tried to drink 2 glasses of red wine, I probably would really, even just 1 glass of red wine, I probably would struggle with it for the first little while. I'm sure if I did it like regularly, I would get used to it and I would be okay after a while. But at first it would kick my ass, and that's the problem. It's like, I feel like I'm afraid to do anything that's too strenuous or too much fun because I know I'm going to hurt myself later. And it's like, I don't want to feel so damn fragile. I've been like this tough chick my whole life. Like I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and I'm like, I'm the very independent one. I've been a single mom since I was 18. I've like, I'm usually the tough one. And right now it just sucks being the one who's like struggling with all this, fragility, I guess, where I feel like I can only do limited things without hurting myself, So,
I mean, yes, and like that's, I feel, been a thing. I'm sure everybody else can relate to that as well.
Yeah.
Like there was a period of time where my dad just called. I mean, bless my dad's soul, he's a great man, but he was calling me a hypochondriac, and I'm like, dude, you just don't understand. Like, I know I'm young, but you're not in my body. You don't feel what I feel. And so that can be a little bit difficult trying to explain that to people, because they just don't understand unless they're in your position, you know?
Right. Yeah, I know. My fiance is like, you're in pain every day. He's like, you know, he's always like telling me how I'm like, said something about being a miserable bitch or something. He's like, well, you are in pain every day. I mean, I'm never like a bitchy person. I don't sweat the small stuff, so I'm a pretty laid back woman, but at the same time, I am in pain every day. I am always like having, you know, just this constant muscle pain and soreness. So it makes it hard to work out. It makes it hard to do anything strenuous, because it flares up all the stuff that bothers me and then makes it hurt, you know, and then I'm like, have a hard time. And I wish I could figure out a way. That's why I started taking the milk thistle and the spleen desiccated. I'm trying to, like, you know, drink dandelion tea and like do all these things that can help flush the body out. I have like this great big water jug that I take with me everywhere I go. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, it's like 32 ounces, and I try to make sure that I drink at least 2 of those a day, so that I'm getting enough water, so that I'm not having risk for clotting, and I'm able to flush things out. I take another thing called yerba yursi, I think it's called, or something like that. And it's also supposed to help flush out the kidneys and the bladder. So, you know, I take that too. And I'm like always trying to like find ways to detox. I went today to the infrared sauna for an hour.
Oh, wow.
And that feels really good when you get out. Yeah. It's like you're sitting in there sweating. It's not so great when you're sweating, but once you get out of there, it's like, it just, you feel like it's a really good feeling. I feel like I just sweat out a bunch of bad crap, you know?
Well,
So
that's like the positive too, you know, like to go off of what you said, you know, you felt like, you're like, you know, I've been this tough chick my whole life, you know, and then here you are dealing with these things. But like, if you know, change the story about it and look at it like, okay, look at all the things that I'm learning now and that I'm researching, and this is the reason this happened, so I could bring this forth to other people and help other people. And that's truly what you're doing. I mean, I found you on YouTube, I want to say years ago. Like, I remember when I had first gotten diagnosed, the disease is so rare. So
I know it's hard to find other people that have it.
Yeah, I was just on YouTube looking up stuff, and I saw one of your videos like a long time ago.
So when I was probably first trying RSO or something, because I have a couple of really old ones where I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. Because the first thing I tried was like a hemp-based thing from Michigan, and it actually made my platelets go up. It was... Yeah, it was a disaster. It made me feel so sick. It was probably not a clean extract. It was probably something that still had a lot of whatever they, you know, whether it was butane or whatever, but I don't know. It definitely was not a good extract, whatever I had. And so it wasn't until I got a hold of actual cannabis that I started seeing my platelets change, because, you know, hemp, I actually had pulled some stuff up I was going to go over today, and if we had a decent amount of people on, but we just have us, so no big deal. But there's been a lot of people have asked me, what's that?
I said, I think it's been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning something from you. You're learning from me. It's a good thing either way. But yeah, so what was I going to say? Shoot. I love when I lose track. No, it's okay. I do this all the time where I'm like, my brain, I have brain fog.
You're talking about the hemp.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I get so many people that are like wanting to know what I'm taking and what I'm doing. And, you know, when I tell them that higher CBD is working for me, they instantly think, oh, I'll just take hemp so I don't get any of that THC, because everyone's afraid of getting high, or they have a job where they can't test with it in their system or whatever. And so, you know, not everybody wants the THC, but it's really hard to help people understand that, like, you know, if you're helping arthritis or something that's like a minor condition, sure, you know, CBD alone, probably fine. You know, you want to just like lower your blood pressure or, you know, whatever, you can probably do that with just CBD. But when you have a severe condition like what we have, where we have this terrible inflammation response that's causing all these high platelets, like, you need a more potent medicine. You need you know, something that's a little stronger. And I didn't see any results until I moved from hemp to cannabis, you know. And then once I started to understand it better after working in the industry for so long, that's when I really understood what I needed in cannabis to help me. And it wasn't just, oh, just buy high CBD. It was like, there are different ways that they extract CBD. There's isolate, there's distillate, and there's full spectrum extracts, right? Well, full spectrum extracts have all of the terpenoids and flavonoids and cannabinoids that are natural occurring in the plant.
Yeah.
When you have an isolate, you just have CBD. You have none of the other components of the plant. When you have distillate, same thing, they're separating everything. And then, like with the CO2 distillate method, which is one of the RSOs that I like to take, actually, they take the cannabis oil and they separate it into all the separate cannabinoids and all the separate terpenoids. And then they add a little blend of it back together. And that's what you get as medicine. And what I'm finding is the closer to the natural plant that you can get, the better it works, because those flavonoids and terpenoids are playing a role in the healing. It's not just the cannabinoids. It's not just the CBD. There's other compounds in that plant that are actually helping. And without them, you don't get anywhere near the level of results you get when you have a full spectrum extract. And so I have all these people always asking me about well, can't I just take hemp? And I'm like, it's hard to make people really understand that it's not just about the CBD. It's about all those other chemicals. One of the ways I explain it to people to help kind of make it a little clearer, it's we all think THC is what gets you high, right? But when you smoke or consume, however you consume it, sativa versus indica, right? Well, sativa is stimulating and it gives you energy and creativity, and indica, the way I tell people to remember it is Indica is more sedative. It makes you feel sleepy and kind of you don't give a crap and you don't want to move. Give me the Doritos and the remote. That's all you need. So indica has a totally different effect, but they both have THC in them. What makes the difference in that effect are the terpenoids and the flavonoids. That's what makes it uplifting or relaxing. That's what makes you have different effects in it. And that's why when I'm helping patients with cannabis, I have to be very cautious to pay attention to the terpenoids and flavonoids, because some people are for instance, limonene, right? It's the natural occurring citrusy smell that's found in all the citrus fruits, but also is occurring in cannabis in certain strains that have a more citrusy smell. So for some people, that limonene is stimulating, and it helps to clear up anxiety and give them energy and creativity. And for other people, it can be anxiety, creating. It can make them panic. It can keep them up at night and stop them from being able to have a good night's sleep. So it depends on your biology and how you interact with each one of these terpenoids and flavonoids. So it's a big puzzle. It's not like this real easy, just take CBD. It's a big puzzle. It's hard to figure it out. So you have to figure out what terpenoids and flavonoids is my body responding to. If it's all positive, then you don't have to worry about it too much. You can just take a full spectrum extract and you could be okay. But there's certain people that they have to make sure that full spectrum extract doesn't have any limonene in it so that they can get some sleep at night, or whatever the case may be. That's just one of many examples I can use. But there is something to the other plant compounds, and that's why, again, getting back to the beginning of our conversation, I really believe in plant-based medicine. The closer you can get to that raw plant material, the better. The way that, for instance, there's an herb called Kratom. You may have heard of it. Some people call it Kratom, but it's Kratom. It's a natural pain reliever. It's also known to reduce platelets, by the way. Traditionally it was used in teas. They would drink teas of this kratom leaf. It's in the coffee family. So they would just take the leaves and they would drink it, or they would chew the leaves. And then when they're working in the field, it would help give them more stamina, more energy, because there's different kinds of kratom. So from the same leaf of kratom, the green part actually gives you energy like coffee, and then there's a red vein through the middle of the leaf. And that red vein is actually sedative and a little more powerful on the pain killing side of things. So I'll take the red volley at night before bed sometimes if I think I'm going to have some trouble sleeping, or if I just really need a good night's sleep because I've been pushing myself too hard. I'll take 1 or 2 capsules of the red volley or the red Borneo. Any of the red vein kratom will help you with pain and with sleep. And I can take that during the day and it doesn't really make me drowsy or anything. And it doesn't even make me sleepy necessarily. It just makes me once I fall asleep, I'm in a deeper sleep. You like no one's waking me up. Like nothing's going to disturb me. It just helps keep me asleep. And then when I wake up, I'm like, wow, I feel like I just slept, you wake up feeling like, woo, that was a heavy one. What was I even dreaming? Like, so it's good. It helps you sleep, and it definitely helps a lot with pain. So that's one of the things I take to help, get rid of the headaches a little bit. Like I'll take a little bit of Kratom sometimes if I'm having a real bad one. But again, that was used as a tea. That was used to chew the leaves. So it was used in its raw plant material. When they start, of course, everybody wants to dry it and put it in a powder form, which is fine as long as it's only Kratom in that powder. But you have to be careful where you're buying it from because they start adding things, like that's how they do with all stuff like this. They want to cut it with something so they can make more money off of it. So you have to be cautious because sometimes there can be other chemicals in there. So if you don't have a good source for your Kratom, then it can be more dangerous than good. Same thing with CBD. Like the first one I took was a hemp-based, and it's not bad because it was hemp-based. It was just bad because however they extracted it was not really meant for human consumption, in my opinion, because it definitely irritated my situation. My platelets went up, and I didn't feel good when I was taking it. I feel a major difference when I take my RSO that I take now from the dispensary versus what was happening way back then. So I mean, you have to, with all herbs and vitamins, like it's always important to make sure that you're getting like, no heavy metal contaminants in them and that there's actual potency to them. Because the thing about supplements is that the way the labeling laws are written is like they can pretty much say whatever the heck they want on the label. It doesn't mean it has to be in there. And the only state that I know of that actually tests for potency and purity is Utah. So that's why I buy most of my herbs through Nature's Sunshine, because they're based in Utah. And so I know that everything that they're selling me, every single batch has had to be tested for potency and purity because that's how the state law works in Utah. So, and if you find other supplement companies in Utah, you can almost always guarantee that you're going to have a good quality product because it came from that state. But, all the other states don't really have those kind of laws. So who knows what's in. There's so many CBD products too that.
Isn't that crazy too? It's like, okay, so what are the regulations for then if you're not actually really regulating it?
Right. Well, and not only that, but then like doctors won't lend any credibility to it because, there's no studies done on it and but they won't do studies on that stuff. They're not, the government has owned a patent on the curative powers of cannabis since the 70s. And it's still a Schedule I federally illegal drug.
Yeah.
But they have a patent on the curative properties. Now, Schedule I means no medicinal use. Mm-hmm. How can you have a patent on the medicinal use but say that it's a drug so dangerous there's no medicinal use? That's an oxymoron right there.
And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, although I am. But going back to what you said earlier, it's like, the whole pharmaceutical industry, if everybody was better, if no one had any issues, they don't make any money. So,
Exactly. And, that's the thing. If there's side effects and symptoms, then they can give you more medications. And the sicker they keep us, the more we need their medical system and their pharmaceuticals. So, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist myself, but it's like, to be honest with you, after what I went through being born at Camp Lejeune and being exposed to benzene and having this rare blood disorder, and then working in the cannabis industry and just knowing what I know about it and the prohibition for the 100 years and how it's such a healthful and beneficial thing that I've literally seen change people's lives. And yet it can still today remain as a Schedule I drug. That shows you the hypocrisy and the corruption right there. Like just that little bit. And then when you start diving even deeper and start looking into other supplements, like the red yeast rice I told you that my grandmother was taking for her cholesterol. They had banned that for a short period of time. And now there's only a certain kind of red yeast rice that we can get because it was curing people. We don't want to take away any profits from those drug companies that are selling you. And, and they changed the standard for blood pressure too, by the way, just so that they can sell you more drugs. So like now it's a lower threshold, for what high blood pressure means. All these little things that you watch the pharmaceutical industry do, and you watch what the FDA does and the drugs that they push through and the ones that they don't allow. And then you see these trial drugs that are working for people with cancer that are like life-saving, miraculous. And all of a sudden they decide to cut it. And now this person has no access to it anymore. And now they're just left to die. Right. And they can't have access to this thing that was actually working for them, So when you start really diving into all those things, it sort of makes you kind of become a conspiracy theorist. I hate to say it, but it does. It makes me very distrusting in the system. And then like when all this COVID stuff happened and certain doctors were speaking out about, like ivermectin and having high vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc and all these ways to naturally boost your immune system. And that information was being suppressed. And when you notice that those videos are all getting shut down that are teaching us how to be healthful on our own and be strong on our own and let our own immune system work the way it should, and those videos and those doctors are getting shut down, and anybody that questions the validity of the vaccine gets shut down, that shows you, it shows me anyway, it makes me that much more skeptical of even getting the vaccine, just because they're shutting down any opposing views on it. Anybody that's had an adverse effect, they won't allow those voices to be heard. Why not?
My dad, just to let you know too, was on the radio. This was like 2 days ago, and I forget what it was. It was like 790 something here.
7:90 a.m. or something
like that.
Yeah.
And there was a doctor on, and they were talking about the vaccine. And so one of my questions my dad asked was, he wanted to ask the doctor, because they chose him, to be on the radio station, to just ask a question. And he said, my daughter has essential thrombocytosis, has been diagnosed with that. And she was also diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and has other autoimmune markers. He goes, what would you say to her as far as taking the vaccine? And this doctor said to my dad, she goes, I would be very, very hesitant for her to take it if she was one of my loved ones. She goes, number one, it can increase blood clots in people.
Yes.
So
and people have developed blood disorders from having gotten this vaccine, which makes me super nervous because I'm already mutated. I don't need to be mutated anymore,
I know. That, and then also people that do have autoimmune diseases should be careful about putting anything in their body because we're so sensitive. So if we have any type of markers for other, inflammatory diseases, we need to be like especially careful to not aggravate our system, because all it takes is one thing to trigger that, and then you have a life-threatening illness.
Right.
I mean, I almost died from the autoimmune thing. ET was like, it was bad. I didn't feel good, but I didn't feel like I was dying from it. The autoimmune disease was like the worst thing I'd ever been through in my life.
Really?
So it makes me really, really hesitant to want to get this vaccine because I can't fathom having to go through something like that again.
Well, right. And that's kind of what I was saying too. I've worked so hard to get my body to this level where I'm managing my platelets naturally. I do have this mutation, whatever, but I am at a good place right now. My platelets are lower than they've ever been. Why would I want to mess that up? We don't know the long-term effects of this either. This is an experimental thing that was rushed through the FDA. And then when you learn the legal side of it to where, if there are adverse effects, people have no recourse. They have no way to litigate these companies. And why would they put that kind of immunity in place unless they knew there was going to be some really bad adverse effects? So they protected these corporations from having any accountability for it because it's a rushed vaccine, because they pushed it through so fast. And they use for the mRNA one, they use HIV codes from the DNA to create it. And some people were having false HIV positives after having gotten the COVID vaccines. So, it happened in Australia, and then it started happening here in the US. People were getting these HIV false positives. And you think about it, and it's like, why after all these years of having cancer and HIV, we've never been able to come up with a vaccine for it, but we get COVID and all of a sudden we rush it through and we have this right away, and it gets pushed through the FDA with emergency rules, even though if you really look at the history of it, they've tried to push through this kind of vaccine in the past for many, many years, and they were not successful. The FDA didn't let it through. The only reason it got through this time was because of the emergency rules. So that's scary in itself right there. There's a reason it was being shut down before, So I don't know. It scares me because I have a blood disorder. And like I said, I don't want to mess up what I've got under control. And, there's other people who have had anaphylactic shock from having it, and they've had to do the EpiPens for those people. And I'm just like, I don't want to risk it. I've worked so hard to get to this level that I don't want to have that messed up and now have to be fighting a whole new issue. That's the last thing I need. I'm not that afraid of COVID. Meredith had COVID and she made it, and she's got ET, and she did natural medicine and she got through it, and she's alive. So that means we can live through COVID.
They better not force us to get it. That's
That's where I will draw the line. That's where I'm gonna change my religion or something, because I'm not getting it. I feel like if it's my body, my choice, it should be my choice. That I should have the ability to make decisions about my body for what's best for me.
I'm
And
just afraid they're gonna say, "Hey, look, it's fine. You don't have to get it, but guess what? You can't get on airplanes.
right, you can't travel now, and that is already starting to be talked about. It is. And it scares me. I just got my passport and I'm like, I've never been to Mexico. I've never been to Canada. Like, I've hardly seen any of the West Coast even, like, because I've been a single mom my whole life. So I've been stuck in Illinois trying to raise my kids, and now they're all grown and gone finally. I'd like to be able to like explore a little bit and go. I have a cousin in Germany I want to go see, and an aunt and uncle there. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that, because I don't want to, unless maybe we can get a medical exemption. It is possible, because I know one of our other ET patients from our group, she's actually a movie producer in California, or not a producer, but she works in reality TV. And she said that she was able to get a medical exemption from her doctor for wearing the mask, because breathing back in your own, I always get this wrong, carbon dioxide? I don't know. I think it's dioxide. Okay. I don't know why I screw those up so bad. I can never get them straight. But when you're breathing back in your own breath, it can actually cause clots. It can cause issues. So she said it's actually more dangerous for us to be wearing masks. And I still always wear mine just to be courteous, because I don't want to make anybody feel threatened because I walked in the room without a mask on, but like, I wouldn't be going out in public if I had any symptoms. If I had symptoms, I'd stay home. I live in a suburban neighborhood where like I'm literally walking distance to just about everything I could ever need. Like, I can walk across the street and get sushi. I can get deep dish pizza. I can, it's all right here. So I can easily get delivery. I can easily, buy all my stuff through Amazon if I have to for a couple of weeks. There's no reason for me to go out if I had any symptoms anyway. But regardless, I still wear it. But like the other day, actually yesterday, my sister just got an apartment and she's like, oh, go with me to go furniture shopping. And I'm like, okay, so we went to a couple furniture stores, and I was okay with the first couple furniture stores. And then she decided to, let's go to IKEA. Have you ever been in IKEA? It was so crowded. I can't even tell you. Like, there were just like people everywhere. And like, I felt like I needed to like pull my mask so I could breathe, because I was like getting like dizzy, and I'm like, we need to get out of the store. Like, I need to go. It was really overwhelming. And not just because there was a lot of people. It was just like, I felt like having that mask was too much. Like, it was, the air in the building was very stagnant. It was hot in there. Then we got in the elevator and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like, because their little cart machine was broken. So everybody was in line waiting to get on the elevator. Oh yeah, it was a nightmare. I was so happy to get out of that store. Let me tell you, it's like never been happier to get out of IKEA. I usually like going in there, and I haven't been in there in years, and I was excited to go because I was like, oh, I haven't been to IKEA in forever. This is going to be cool. And yeah, I couldn't wait to get out. I was just like, I need to leave this place now. Just having the mask on for that long was tough for me.
Yeah. So. Well, one thing I would love maybe when you have the next one, I'd love to, just because this is like my own thing that I've just been really researching super diligently, but I'd be super interested to see if anyone else has had potential exposure to something like benzene, because that's huge.
It is. Yeah. I mean, because I've been trying to find the common thread between all of us. It's such a rare thing. And obviously something triggered it in our bodies, and obviously it's probably different for everybody. One of the things I learned actually on one of I think it was like 2 calls ago, that you can have the JAK2 mutation and not have ET. And so I guess JAK2 mutation doesn't necessarily mean it's ever going to turn into ET. It can later in life. It can turn into polycythemia vera or any of the other ones. But just because you have the JAK2 doesn't mean that you'll ever necessarily get ET. And just because you have ET obviously doesn't mean you have JAK2, because there's several of us in the group that don't. And actually we have a few that have the CALR mutation. So one of them is actually a young boy. He, I think, was 14, I want to say, when he was diagnosed. Yeah. And he's now, I think, 21.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So was diagnosed at 14 with it. So he's had a really hard time of it too. His platelets are always in the 900s, and he's just got a lot of symptoms. And so his mom actually reached out to me to see about trying medical cannabis. And I know that they had tried something recently. I just don't know how it's been going with them. I was kind of hoping she'd be on today so I could ask her, but
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see her again soon. She did send me a message yesterday saying she was going to try to be on. So, yeah, but yeah, we've got an interesting group, and I have been really interested to try to find that common thread, because it would be really, I mean, not like pointing the blame is ever going to solve it for us, but it would just be nice to have answers. It would be nice to know, like, I've been a healthy person my whole life. I've never had, not until I got pregnant with my first child did I even ever have a cavity. You know, like I've just always had, like, I won the President's Physical Fitness Award in gym every year of my life. Like, you know, I've always been a very healthy person. And usually when the rest of the family gets really bad flu, I'll get like a mild version of it, you know, but everybody else gets hit harder. And so, you know, I'm used to always being the healthy one. And so it's really strange that now all of a sudden I'm the one who has like this strange mutation. And there's my sister. I'm the oldest of 6 kids biologically, and actually because my parents have each been married 3 times, I have 10 total because I have some step siblings too. So it's a little crazy hectic sometimes trying to keep up with everybody, because yeah, always drama, but
Hey, it makes it exciting.
it does. It's never boring. It's definitely never boring.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see other people too next time, maybe. But this was good. Like, I was glad that, I mean, we got to talk. That was
Totally. Yeah. It's still, I mean, like, it's funny because like 2 calls ago, I think it was just me and Stacy, and like Clark had come on for a brief period of time, but he had some other stuff going on. Sundays are tough for him because he's a pastor. So, you know, he's very involved in his church. Same thing with Dr. Valerie. She's very involved with her church. So she's usually not available on Sundays either. So that's why I've been doing a lot of the calls I've been trying to do them on Saturdays, because I wanted you to be a part of it, and I wanted to give other people an option to where it wouldn't interfere with their Sunday. And then of course I screwed it up by being at a birthday party instead of being at home, but that's okay.
I tried to I was like, yes, this Saturday, because I work Sundays. But then we made this one later. So, and I got off, you know, I get off early because I go in super early on Sunday. So I was like, I'm able to make it. So I was really
good. That's why I did it later in the day, because I was hoping that you would still, because I remember you said something about working Sundays but not working too late. So I was like, okay, good. Maybe if I make it late enough in the day, she can still get on. And I actually have another couple in the UK that wanted to get on the call, and the new lady that I just met, her and her husband are both in the UK as well. And so because of them, I thought, okay, well, hopefully it won't be too late to where they can still get on the call. And I was going to do 5 o'clock, but that's 10 p.m. their time. Or 10 or 11 their time. So by doing it at 4, I think it was only like 9 o'clock their time. So I was hoping, because like my one lady who's in Spain, or in Portugal rather, Inez, she comes on the calls too from time to time, but it's hard for her because it's late at night there when it's like middle of the day here, you know. So, and I was looking at the world time thing the other day, and I'm like, there's just no good time where it's like a decent time of day for everybody, you know, like it's always going to be either late at night or early in the morning for somebody, because I've got like 4 or 5 of you guys in California. And then I have a few of us here in the Midwest, and then a whole bunch of people in Florida and North Carolina. So there's a whole bunch of them that are on the East Coast. And I've got a couple New Jersey people and a couple New York people, I think. And then we've got the UK, and we've got Portugal, and then there's a couple of them in Australia, but I haven't talked to them in a while, so I don't know if they're going to be on. But, you know, trying to get all those time zones is like virtually impossible. But I'm trying my best. So,
well, shout out to you for even doing this. Like,
thank you.
And I wanted to tell you that too. I'm like, this is so awesome, because, you know, it's so rare. And so a lot of times you wonder, like, why did I, you know, not to be like, poor me, but you do. But why did I get this? And
right. What did I do wrong? Because I'm always one that like thinks, oh, I must be doing something wrong. That's why I'm having this symptom, or I'm having, you know what, I'm always self-analyzing, trying to figure out how I can do things better, how I can improve. And with this, it's like one of those things. It's like, I've been digging my whole life to try to figure out what happened. And I don't know. I mean, the best I can come up with is the benzene exposure, because other than that, I don't really know, you know, what could have done this to me. I mean, you know, I didn't start getting symptoms from this blood disorder until after I had my first kidney stone. I've had 2. But the first time I had kidney stones, it was a very odd coincidence that my mom was going through it at the same time as me. And she had a totally different doctor. She's out in Elgin, which is like 30 minutes west of me. And I had my doctor here in Schaumburg, and you know, they told me that I was having a kidney stone. Same thing with my mom, and they sent me for the blast surgery where they like blast the kidney stone to break it up. And her and I ended up at the same hospital on the same day, right back to back, getting our kidney stone blasted. Yeah, it was a very odd coincidence that it just happened to be my mom and I at the same place on the same day. And at the same time, like I think I went in just before her, and then she went in just after me. So we were like back to back appointments. So it was very funny. I know. The way the world works, right? But for some reason, ever since that surgery, so her kidney stones broke up, and she said they were like sand, you know, when they came out. Mine came out whole. And it was a 6 millimeter stone, so it's a pretty significant size stone. It was definitely painful, but boy, was that a relief when that thing finally came out. It was like pop, and then I was like, oh, I felt so much better. But so even after the surgery, it didn't break up my kidney stone at all. So it still came out whole, but ever since that surgery, I have had pain in my neck. I don't know if they dropped my head off the table. I don't know what happened, but literally since the day of that surgery that's when I started getting symptoms. It was daily headaches, neck pain, daily headaches, neck pain, you know, just it was like this perpetual thing. And then it turned into what made me actually go see a doctor to figure out what was going on with the headaches was the fact that I was getting aura migraines. So I was getting like this C shape, like it looked like pixels just fluttering and shining all over the place, like these little tiny squares, like just doing this weird light reflection thing in my eye. And how I knew something was really wrong is even when I closed my eyes, it would still be there. I could still see this little like twinkly thing going on.
You're breaking through the matrix.